Donnie, this is the first week that I didn't see any good dollar contest for the UFL, and given how much we've been on a roller coaster where we win, we lose, I didn't want to step up into that $3 tier to play a single entry. So what I did was I played the 2 game slate that they were trying to feature because I thought that was the best chance to use the dollar. And maybe that speaks to me as a sports fan, but like the NBA playoffs is going on right now. Baseball's offering almost daily boosts in the sports book. Like I just felt like there's so much more I could do with my dollar in terms of using it for boost, making sure I take advantage of profit. And like that's what we preach on this show is like we're showing you a process of like even a niche sport like this. I've been doing a lot more WNBA, so that way you have shots on goal. Like I feel like the more high quality, more often you can bet good things and things that you believe in, the better off you're going to do. But I kind of like that you went ahead and your personal and went ahead and did the $3 contest for the 3 games because I do think you'll have an edge, and that's also why I wanted to cover it for people that are going to play all 3 games. San Antonio continues to be kind of that circus team this year in terms of coaching staff, in terms of like Kirkland shows up sometimes, doesn't show up all times. Corbin emerges as like a real threat. Did you know Corbin got the most workload, of any running back this season? He was the first running back to exceed 30 touches this season between his rushing total and his receiving upside. So I will say this, Don, if you're playing the 3-gamer, it looks like Corbin's going to be the highest owned running back this week.
Well, and that's the first thing I want to talk about going into what we've seen so far this year.
Yeah, that's a good
There
one.
is nothing left for any of these teams to play for besides, maybe you're trying to earn next year's contract, NFL's roster spot.
Mm-hmm.
The playoffs are set. Granted, the standings aren't, but home field advantage is set due to schedule issues with Ford Field and the other field they play at. So Birmingham's got home field advantage for the conference championship, and St. Louis has home field advantage for the conference championship. We know where these games are. Right now, the goal for those 4 playoff teams: be healthy, be ready, and be healthy.
Yeah, I didn't really think about it until now, but maybe it's like a good thing that they can't play in Michigan because like you'll get a hungry fan base somewhere. Like some place will show up. Sometimes we see in these neutral, site games where there'd be like a major storm, had to move a game or like they had moved some games because of COVID, during that season. Sometimes you like see the fan base really show out. You'll find a fan base that shows up to shovel snow. So I'm hoping that like Michigan still gets a good turnout, even though it's not Ford Field, wherever they put it.
I will say, last time they had the conference championship in Birmingham, there was a decent amount of Michigan fans. I was kind of shocked how many Michigan Panthers jerseys I saw in the stands. Cause I was there.
Yeah.
I mean, there was more than you'd expect.
Well, that's a good point too, because we know the younger fans are more like the player-based, fans anyway. They're the more fantasy players, so you're more likely to cheer for a player. Maybe he played for your former college. Maybe you even like a former coach who used to, coaching college. I don't feel like the historical roots for these teams is so rooted to their city or their location that it could be a big thing, like it would be in the NFL. Maybe I'm wrong. Like for some reason, if the Dallas Cowboys couldn't play in Dallas, Texas, it would be a huge deal. Like I'm talking like it would be like mainstream news if like that fan. But like no one has those roots in the UFL, and it goes back to college. It goes back to like other rooting interests. This is like a younger sport. There's a reason like Destroying got a chance in this league. They are trying to speak to a younger audience. So I have hope. And that's also why I want to give DraftKings a bit of a pass here because I was hoping the 3-game slate would be more advantageous. But again, I do want to save my dollars for these big boosters I'm getting in the sportsbook when it's playoff time and things like that. So I didn't know if the $3 was worth it, especially when I looked at San Antonio's depth chart, which we'll get into in a minute. They're going back to Kellen Mond. So talk about teams that like are giving second chances. Justin Smith is also resting. He's not going to play. Apparently, Donnie, they might only have 4 wide receivers active for the Brahmas this week.
Yeah, I am interested to see like what teams are doing because the Brahmas don't have any incentive. There's no guys. I don't think there could be a couple fringe guys, but there's not many guys who have a chance to make an NFL roster, mini camp, whatever. I'm very interested to see how those bad teams this year are going to handle their rest and who's getting an opportunity compared to the good teams where, like, if you're Birmingham or Michigan or whatever, you can't take the gas completely off.
Yeah.
Because you do have to play in a couple games. You do need to be warmed up. But how aggressive are you? How deep into the playbook, especially this week for Michigan and Birmingham? Because last year they were fighting for home field advantage. It was week 10 they played. They were fighting for home field advantage. And Birmingham and Michigan both, like, they played 100%. But with home field advantage set already anyways, I don't know how much you really put into this game on either end.
If you wanted to do a Sunday showdown, I'm okay with it. Like my point of not investing the $3 in one contest was just my shots on goal mentality, where it's like if I'm going to invest $3, I want the most shots possible. So if you want to make a bet, if you want to do a showdown, that's fine. It's just I didn't find the contest to be really worth it either. What contest did you fall on? Did you actually get a good one? Because I was thinking maybe
am I allowed to say?
Oh, that's yeah. Because we're not building your lineup.
Okay. I did the $3 play action, 1K play action.
Okay. So it is is that the 20 or is that a single?
I'm not sure if it's a single. It's not 20. I know it's not 20.
Okay.
But I'm not sure if it's a single.
I'm sure it's a single because it used to be in the NFL.
I think it's 497 max spots.
So. Yeah. So are you planning on playing any San Antonio wide receiver if they only have 4?
I'd look into it.
Because it looks like it's going to be Kirkland. I heard Kirkland, Harris, and what is the third name escaping me? Oh, the wide receiver they just got from Memphis, D. Anderson.
So you said you're looking at San Antonio's right now?
Yeah.
I will look at it. James Larson's already posted everything on Twitter.
I assume he did. Yeah, he's great, by the way. If you guys don't follow that.
Yeah. That's where all the depth charts, he's on top of everything. James Larson. Awesome UFL source. He does not, that is like the one of the few games he doesn't have. He's done 2 games so far. He doesn't have the other 2. And
it looks like they might rotate Stevenson, but the rumor is they'll have 4. But the 3 are locked in. Harris will get his spot back. But that team, man, has just been a roller coaster. Like we talked about teams that might make the NFL. On a talent perspective, if you told me at the start of the year, talk about like the season overview, that Kirkland wouldn't have earned himself an NFL preseason job, I would have been shocked. Like, I'm not saying he's a starter and, like, he's a superstar, but, like, I would have for sure locked him in as a preseason darling.
I would have locked Kirkland in as, like, a first-team wide receiver on the all-UFL team.
He has not played like that at all.
And he has not played like that. Yeah, I'm shocked. It's like losing Cody Lattimore for that offense has completely sucked everything out of that team.
Yeah.
He was such a safety blanket.
Yeah. Well, we saw. I mean, I was AJ Smith, who was a former OC who did really well with that team last year, had like a bottle with Wade Phillips. Wade Phillips leaves. Smith leaves. He was like joking in the like late night on Twitter the other night about like how he missed like PJ Walker and like the old UFL and what it stood for. It's been a wild season for the Brahmas.
Yeah. Well, another wild thing for the Brahmas is like, maybe it's a good thing. This is definitely one of those guys just betting on themselves and not chasing a championship. Alan Bowman, that quarterback, he decided to sign with San Antonio despite Michigan, needing an emergency quarterback for this week.
Yeah.
So Bowman probably is going to try to take the job for week 10, I'd imagine.
I'd imagine so, because he spent more time in college, I believe, than he should have at Oklahoma State. with the Cowboys because he got injured. Like he's a very old development quarterback for where he wants to be because of the injuries and setbacks and stuff. So he definitely needs an opportunity. And I guess that's what makes this league different opposed to like week 17 or week 18 of the NFL season, Donnie, where it's like, oh, these guys have an incentive. They can make an extra million, and I don't want to, downgrade that for like low level guys like us. Like a million's a lot, and it still is for these guys, but they're making, their contracts kind of incentivize like, oh, you don't have to.
Yeah, it's almost like the incentive weeks for NFL. It means less than the UFL incentive weeks. Because, these guys are fighting for potential future jobs in the NFL. Obviously, the $1 million incentive doesn't mean much to an NFL player. The little chances that you get in the UFL mean everything to these players.
Right. And honestly, like even the guys that would matter, like the depth chart guys, like the Patrick Lairds, the Zach Zinner guys, like the bottom of the run guys that you cheer for as a fan, those guys actually get most of their incentives, if they do get them, by being on the active roster. So a lot of times coaches will actually bring them up near the end of the season if they're a playoff team and they want to get the younger guys like the appreciation. Yeah. So it's usually playing time and snaps, stuff like that.
Last little UFL tidbit news that I think is just overall good for the league. Jake Bates, obviously, is in Detroit right now because he plays there, but he's going to go to the Michigan Panthers game probably this week, and they're giving out Jake Bates bobbleheads at Ford Field.
That's great.
Which is just good for the league. The little things the UFL has done as advertising has been very, very good.
Yeah, and I don't want to make, like we talked about how they lost Ford Field. I don't think that was exactly Ford Field's fault. They've been accommodating in a lot of ways. Like I know some stadiums, and we'll leave them nameless, just basically said no to the UFL. There's been some commentators, been some like media sources just like mocking the NFL. So I have to appreciate like that Ford Field's willing to bring in Jake. He's willing to do it. Like that's all good stuff.
Well, I mean, Bates, he made his name with the Brahmas or the Panthers. So it's a pretty big deal. But to be fair, it's just blatantly true. Kendrick Lamar is going to make more money at Ford Field than the Panthers are. Ford Field's gonna give it to Kendrick Lamar.
Yeah. Well, that's a very fair point. Why wouldn't you? If I was a promoter, I would do the same thing.
And that is what's overlapping. It is Kendrick Lamar's concert, so it's like you have to give it to Kendrick.
And like if most of those players had the night off and they didn't have to work that night, they would probably be going to the Kendrick Lamar contest or concert over playing in a professional football contest. That's just the fact of reality.
But we can get into the lineup stuff now. We spent enough time tidbitting around.
So, but I do want to get into this really quickly in case you are doing the 3-gamer. Do you put any stock? Like, I know I told you the wide receivers are thin, so you would consider that. Do you consider maybe it's a good thing for Corbin, a bad thing, a good thing for a certain wide receiver that Kellen Mond is taking over the job again? Like, I view that as a downgrade.
I also see it as a downgrade. And again, Mond is a guy we were very high on going into the season. He just didn't live up to any of the hype at all.
And I was totally wrong. I thought the NFL pedigree would transfer. I thought like he had enough rushing ability would transfer. He did spam Harris. So that is like one shining light is when he went out of the lineup, Harris's production really dipped. So maybe now that they're both in the roster, back on the roster, starting, that's something. But like, let's not pretend. Harris and Mond were both in the doghouse. So I wouldn't trust him. I'm just because we're not going to be able to build him with him on my slate. So I just want to mention, if I was playing the 3-gamer, I wouldn't trust Kellen Mond. I would take a chance on the wide receivers if there's only 4 of them, just based on volume. Here's an interesting thing, though, Donnie, because I was hearing, for your information, that Corbin will be about 40% owned this week. I don't know his price. I just know, like, he got I told you, like, he got the biggest workload of any running back so far this season. I think he had, like, 32 total touches or something like that.
So instead of doing a draft, I would say with only 2 games, we could probably talk out the picks. Is there any specific guys you want to try to play? I'm leaning towards one quarterback. We've already been over it. If you think somebody other than EJ Perry makes sense, I guess, but just that price tag, man.
EJ Perry is fine for me. I'm okay with that. If you think he's going to get – so, like, when you say he's going to be the starter, do you think he'll get the full run?
I imagine so.
Okay. If you think that, then I would play him. Because I was thinking about
the news I'm hearing, Larson announced it, and it seems like it's pretty much a lock that it's going to be Perry.
That's how they've been doing it. Like, their coaches basically like, we're going to treat this like the preseason. You're going to get all the first half snaps this game. You're going to play all this game. And, like, he really has been sticking to that. So, if you hear it's Perry, I would have just played Danny Etling because I think that offense is explosive. But I do think that will be where most people will go.
But, and here's my counter argument to that. How much of the playbook does Michigan have open this week?
That's a good point. Or how much do they give it? How much do they care?
Right. Like, you have no incentive to care this week. I will say, I think Michigan cares more than Birmingham because Birmingham, I don't think, has ever lost to Michigan. I could be wrong about that. But in recent history, Birmingham's just been a pain in the ass when it comes to Michigan.
They are kind of a pain in the ass team in the way they run.
It's like the Chiefs playing the Bills in the playoffs. Even if it's close, it always ends up going Birmingham's way.
Yeah. And we've seen Michigan overperform recently. So I feel like if we're talking about ownership perspective, I do think people will favor the box scores they have seen recently. And they won't.
If this was a must-win game, you wouldn't play Etling. I know that.
Yeah. Well, let's also be fair because we just said like it matters to the players, incentives matter, like getting to the NFL matters. I still stand by all that. What I'm saying is these coaches want to win in the playoffs, so they're going to pull starters. Or maybe they won't pull them. That's what I would do. That's what I think. That's my fear. That would be my.
You at least don't open up your best plays. You don't give your best shot play a chance.
Right, because even if you're a coach or like even if you say like the UFL is a secondary league, it's a feeder league, you didn't do all this work to get to the playoffs to be like, oh well, at least I got my guy 25 snaps. Like no, they're trying to win in the playoffs. They're not trying to win this game right now. They're trying to make a name for themselves when the Rock shows up in a few weeks. It's just.
I mean, I think Etling actually is primed to have a good game, but. There's no reason to say he's going to have to do a lot more with a very small playbook, very weak concepts.
We should mention though, Donnie, because I do think this is a fun perspective and it does speak to how bad this league is in some ways, just from an exposure standpoint. Me and you follow this league very closely, and I told you last minute about Perkins being out. That was a very bad luck for the league. Hopefully they don't have any more of that.
Well, that was unfortunate because it was how often does a guy get injured literally 10 minutes before kickoff?
Right. And I don't
know. That
was
more so unfortunate for the league than anything else.
I just want to mention that because maybe you're right. Maybe it would have been like 30 minutes or 40 minutes or like Adam Scheffler or somebody like that would have been on top of it if it was the NFL, but it's not. And so it's just unfortunate. That's a perfect word for it. But we did find out that Perkins was out. He's going to be out again this week. But Donnie, here's the unfortunate thing. When you find out a news like that, I mean, it didn't benefit us. We just barely missed the cash line for anyone who's wondering.
I did cash in person.
Did you? That's
yes.
good. Because I've had that
because of Perkins.
And so you know the story that he was 41% owned and got 0 points.
Yes, 41% got hurt in warm-ups, and that was it.
I just want to mention though, like we're playing a niche sport. That stuff like this will happen. Like we are playing for that. Like, not hoping for it, but we are baking that in. Basically, is what I would look at it as. So, Donnie, my Tony Jones play last week worked, and they didn't raise his price at all. And I think he could get more of a workload.
Can you pull up his stats?
Okay, I will do that.
Because I don't know how many carries he got. I don't.
I was going to say
he got
Smith is out this weekend. Smith played last week.
Okay.
So that's why I like it. And they didn't raise his price. And at this point, he has more juice than Smith does. Like he's young enough he can get back in the league.
7 touches with Smith out probably goes up to 10 about at least.
Yeah. Maybe they give it all to Hunter.
And I think this game means a lot. Like the teams that are eliminated from the playoffs, I almost think have more to play for because they're just going to call their best plays and get their guys in the best scenario possible.
But you got to remember, Tony Jones came to this team late because of the injury to Balaj. They need him for the playoffs. I could see this being like a show-out game because he's coming to the team late. He needs snaps. He needs familiarity with the playbook.
Does he? He's not under contract next year. He only has 2 more games under contract. So how much?
But they're going to use him in the playoffs.
They're out.
Are they? Okay.
Yeah. So that's what I mean. Arlington's out. Arlington's out.
You might be right.
Memphis is out. Houston's out, and who's that other USFL conference team? Arlington, Memphis, Houston.
Is it the Brahmas?
Yeah, and San Antonio.
Yeah.
Those 4 are out. The 4 teams that are in is St. Louis, Michigan, DC, and Birmingham. That's it. So Arlington has nothing to play for besides we want to make a name for ourselves.
So, but I do think we should play Hunter or Jones, given that Smith looks like he's on his way out. But Hills is not coming back either for Michigan, it seems like. So maybe you go with Pierce or Jackson there. I'm just saying there's a lot of running back options.
There is. A guy that I weirdly like, and I know it's going to sound bad, but with a small playbook and Skip Holtz being so conservative, this feels like a Marable game. Like you just give Marable 15 carries, he punches one in, you get out of the game as soon as possible, and whatever.
I was going to say Roundtree is out from what I'm seeing here. Unless that was last week's stats, because unfortunately DraftKings doesn't always update it.
Yeah, this week it's person who's out, Roundtree's in.
Is that how they're running it? So
person who's out getting the rest of the week.
I could see Marable come. I actually like that Marable call because I could see Marable showing out because he really disappointed early.
And his price is so it's finally down.
Yeah. Well, Persons deserves to have a higher price tag than him because he's outplayed him in almost every way. But remember, Marable had the starting role. Like they thought Marable was the starter. They thought he was better than Persons. They really did.
Well, it was 50-50. Going back to last year, it was 50-50.
I would have said it was 60-40. Like I do think Marable had an edge.
It depended on how the game script was going. Birmingham usually was in the red zone last year, so it kind of worked out to him getting carried.
Needless to say, I think we both like the play though. He's got a lot to play for. Like he's got a lot of prove it time.
Right. Like Skip Holtz wants his guy because Marable's his guy.
Yeah.
He wants him feeling good going into the playoff.
It's almost that Alex Caruso thing where they've really backed each other up. Like I've listened to interviews with Marable and the coach, and they like he loves that running game. So we know Birmingham's going to run the ball. That's what they do. That's what they like to do. Think about like Arthur Smith. They have passed the ball a lot, but that's because they've been down and they like faster.
And their run game has been awful, which is something they want to work on.
Yeah.
What can we do this week to find out how to get our run game working against Michigan?
That's a better way to put it. That's what I'm saying. It's been terrible, but they've been consistent with it. Like they really want it to work. They don't want to give up on it. So I don't mind that at all.
Do you have a name you want to bring up? Because I got one more that I definitely should get in.
I do think Davis has just extraordinary offensive and explosion and athleticism, and he did not get to show most of that in the beginning of the year because he was hurt. Now I know they're eliminated, but like if he's trying to put NFL film on tape, I think he could be a good play here at 7,000.
I would argue we go back to Adams now that he has his quarterback back. He had all of his best games with Perry.
He did have all of his best games with Perry, especially that slant. Like they talked about Drew Brees and Michael Thomas being slant boy, and just like really, that's what Perry and Adams reminded me of. It was like that Michael Thomas to Drew Brees route, over and over and over. I want to say that was his 31-point game was with Perry.
I think he had 2 20-point games back to back with Perry.
Yeah, so I like that a lot.
Any name next? And we could double stack. It is a small slate. You could put in both receivers. We have this quarterback.
Yeah. I think we have to make a choice on Arlington's running back just because they do run the ball a lot. Like that, we talked about how Holtz likes to run for the Brahmas. I think Arlington wants to run. They got a pocket passing quarterback as it is, so he's not really going to escape with his legs. I think you play Hunter or Jones here, depending on what you want to
do. What's the price difference exactly?
Quite a lot. It's like I think it's like 7,000 to 4,000. I'll pull it up just to be sure.
Right now, they do only have 2 active running backs. It is Day Hunter, obviously the lead, and Hunter looks really good with the ball, man.
Yeah, but
he's electric.
He is, but it's almost a $4,000 difference. Just to answer your question.
Let's put in Hunter and see if we need salary savers. That's where I would go with it.
That's a good point to see if we need it. Because a lot of times you feel like you need to spend it all, or you feel like you need to go cheap, and then by the time you get to your final guy, you're looking at a lot.
Well, especially the defenses. If you go to defense here.
Yeah. So we have to play somebody from Birmingham or Michigan, right?
Well, we played somebody from Birmingham, but I would like to get more.
Yeah.
I always have leaned Mariner for Michigan. Or we could do Toa, but I don't like playing 2 running backs from the same game.
And I think Mariner is prime for a breakout game. You save just over almost $1,000 by going with Mariner over Toa, and I think that's a good call.
Yeah, and Mariner's like 3rd in receiving, I think, in the league.
Yeah.
Shockingly, you wouldn't think it, but Kane for Birmingham is 1st. And Birmingham's offense has looked the best it's looked all year with Jamar Smith.
It's because Turner really came on late for this team, but I feel like they still give Mariner a lot of looks. Like his opportunities.
He's 3rd in receiving.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say his volumes went down, but like he's still so high in overall season ranks. That tells you that like his production was there, and he's still involved. He caught 1 pass last week. You could hold that against him, but it was almost a 30-yard reception. In this league, Donnie, that's a big play, and that's kind of what you're hunting for is big plays. We saw a quarterback.
Let's go defense.
It makes sense to go with the Stallions to me.
Yeah. Well, if we just look at them, because price wise, it's interesting. I would say. I don't think we have to pay up. I think we could just play who we think is the
Yeah, I don't think you would play your defense against your quarterback, so Arlington would be out.
Right, I would go either Memphis or Birmingham. I would not pay up.
I would go Birmingham for that because it makes sense. You got the wide receiver from Michigan, so like even in a game script where they're down and the quarterback's been terrible, like you know. Like if Danny Etling got benched, it probably would be great for us because I do think it'll be higher owned. And like, then we got Marable and then we can really profit from there. See, this is where I like that $4,000 difference, Donnie.
What would it get us to really? That it's 3,000 different, so we get.
It gets us to like Canela. It gets us to like, I don't know if we could go all the way to Tower. Maybe one. Let me look. I just feel like people will be sleeping on it. And he got 7 touches, I think, altogether because he got 1 reception as well.
Yeah, 7. It was 7 altogether.
We can get anyone we want.
See, at that point, I think the most consistent guy that I trust will 100% get workload this week would still be either Canella or Hunter. So it's another piece of Arlington's offense. It's just which one do we do?
We could just do both of them and be really different.
Like, I would not be mad at that.
Yeah, if we went with Hunter and Jones, like, then I just don't feel like a lot of people will do that.
We always say get the touches, and this is what we're doing here.
And well, that's what I was just going to say earlier, is we saw a 41% owned Perkins get 0 points and, like, kill lineups. One of the number one things I will say with any of these leagues, it could be WNBA, it could be UFL with the information gaps, just don't take zeros. Like, information gaps in these low market, sports where information isn't as readily available is so key. It's not that you have to know everything about this league, Donnie, but you just can't take zeros.
Yeah. It just feels so wrong to leave 24 on the table.
Yeah, I think that is too much, actually.
And who do you move out? Like, honestly. Marable, I guess, would be the one. I really like that play this week, but it has to be Marable.
But it's only a 2-game slate, too, so it's Marable, and then you play...
So you put Hunter in that running back spot.
Yep.
And instead of Marable, do you go Kane?
I would play Tower, actually. I think.
Well, yeah, then if we go Tower, then I take out Mariner and go Kane.
Okay, yeah. We could do that. Or we just play it for Turner and we take out Marable because Turner's got a lot more workload recently. But I think Marable is the most talented guy on the team. I think Turner's got there with touchdowns because he's super explosive.
Yeah, I prefer Mariner over Turner.
Okay, so let's just see what this looks like, though. So we'll go Tower. Because I actually think this is a good thought exercise. Because we're already different playing both Arlington running backs. But Arlington likes to run so much on you. I
just don't know. If the Michigan game goes how I expected, and it's a very small playbook, and you're going to be super conservative, I almost wonder if it's a McCrary game, and that's what, like, I don't know if Tao is going to get the workload.
Yeah.
That's what I'm scared of.
What if we double stack to a quarterback? So we go, like, I don't even know what this looks like, but, like, if we go with Davis here, we still got too much money.
So go Davis, yeah. Put Davis in. How much of Memphis? That's okay. Then with 10, we could go just throw in Turner at that.
Yeah.
So I feel like we're all in one game, but that game matters more than this Michigan game.
Yeah,
I think doesn't matter.
I think that's what Gov would tell you to do in his 2 games. It's, so I don't want to speak for him, but he would say if there's 2 games and you really like one game, just load up on that one game. I feel like I know.
This is the recipe to, like, cash big, but it's also the recipe where you don't cash if it's bad.
Right, but we can almost cash by not playing a 0-2, Donnie. Like, I do think Jones will get some run.
I guarantee you that someone will play Perkins this week. 100%. Is he marked out on DraftKings right now? I don't think he is.
He's not. I would go as far to say I bet he'll be 10% owned, Donnie.
I was just thinking that. I bet he'd be about 10% owned.
Yeah, he'll be 10%.
I think he might lose his MVP though to Teamu at this point.
He
If
might.
he's gonna miss if he's gonna miss 3 games, he might miss them.
All right, so you good with this? Actually, that leaves a little bit of money in case Gov. If Gov's watching, if he wants to make some comments, he can use the rest of that money if he really likes something.
Do you want to change defense just to see or no?
We can. It's just that I don't know because we don't want to play a defense against a quarterback, do we?
Well, you could play Michigan's. Michigan's is.
Oh, that's right. You could play Michigan.
I think Birmingham.
Michigan's defense is more aggressive.
Birmingham gets more turnovers, but Michigan's more of a floor team.
Yeah.
So we'll go with that.
I like this though. Did you want to build a showdown or did you want to get out of here?
I think we talked about pretty much everything we need to.
Yeah. So I'm still going Perkins, by the way. I think he's had the most highlight teams. I think he's done the most for his team. I think Taiwo had an expectation coming in. I'll give him full credit for living up to that and leading to probably the most explosive offense we've seen in the UFL since PJ Walker, maybe even better than PJ Walker. They've had a great passing percentage. Their completion percentage has been great. He's worked in all the receivers. Taiwo's looked great. But I do think Perkins is the most NFL ready quarterback. I feel like he'll get a job first. I feel like he's done slightly more. But to me, Donnie, this is like a SGA Jokic situation. You could name either one of them. I think you have strong opinions on either side. Like for me, it would have been Jokic in the NBA. For a lot of people, it would have been SGA. But I don't think there was a wrong answer. I do think it's between Perkins and Taiwo. There's no one else, right?
Oh, 100% agree. 100% agree with that.
In the first couple of weeks, we would have said Saylors because he looked really good. He had that 3 touchdown game.
You guys would have said Saylors. I was iffy on it. I thought the touchdowns would slow down and he would slow down as well.
Right.
But he is leading the league in rushing as well.
And let's be honest, if their quarterback didn't get hurt and they didn't have to change the offensive philosophy, maybe they would have rolled through. Who knows? But
I will say Teamu's got 400 extra passing yards on Perkins. I don't know what the rush yards are.
Perkins should have more rushing. He looks more explosive in the running game.
He does look more athletic, but I wonder how much it is.
And
DC is the most explosive offense in the league, and that matters as well.
Yeah, it does matter. But if you watch the film too, I think Perkins has the most highlight plays. Like if you watch that one where he rounded the corner and then evaded the defender. And you do need kind of those spotlight plays too. That play will be spotlighted as a UFL all-time moment.
Whatever you want to call it, the Heisman moment for the UFL.
Right. So I do think that matters. I as soon as I saw that, I'm like, I think that's it. I think that's the stamp. Another UFL coverage I watched for the week, Donnie said the best bet, if you were going to bet UFL, I know we were, more condensed and didn't get to betting any angles, but he said the best futures bet for the playoffs is DC. He felt like DC
they've
was
looked the best all year.
Yeah, they've looked the best, and you could still get them at plus odds. And I think they were plus 180 earlier. So with that being said, though, Donnie, thanks for joining me. Again, we wanted Gov in here. He was having technical issues. He's trying really hard to get back in because we want to do some best ball coverage. I mean, that I really enjoy.
We usually do it after the NBA Finals, so
it's true. But I really enjoy that first show, Donnie, where we break down the player profiles and we notice where we're different because the three of us think a lot alike sometimes. But when we're wrong, it's hilarious. So tune into those shows. They'll be coming up. I think that's it, Donnie. I think we're good. Good night, people.
Good night, everyone.